Rare Diseases, Real Stories is a special podcast series about children living with rare diseases and their parents.
In 1999, a diagnosis of infantile Tay-Sachs was 100% a death sentence.
It was a journey that ended with a result we never saw coming.
It's about the transformational power families wield in moving rare diseases research forward.
It's a community that relies on each other.
Each episode is about courage, perseverance.
You know, as parents, we are going to fight with him till the end.
Gene therapy that provides hope.
Hope and love.
You're tickling me.
There is something about Noah that sparkles. It's infectious.
Families share their stories from the front lines when every moment counts.
She is doing things that we never expected her to do ever.
I'm Jennifer Berryman. I'll be your host. This is a production of UMass Chan Medical School.
He's fascinated by the world around him, for sure.
On an unseasonably warm autumn day in the Oakland Gardens neighborhood of Queens, New York.
Where's Riaan? Where's Riaan? Give Riaan a hug. What are you looking for?
Give Riaan a hug.
Aww.
We met Kaur, her husband, Richie DiGeorge, and their two boys, Riaan and Lou.
Touch the leaves. There you go. Grab the branch. Oh, nice.
I think a lot of the leaves are gone, but you can still grab some.
Walking on a small hill behind their home, Richie grinned as he lifts an almost 5-year-old Riaan onto his shoulders. Joe looks on with a gentle smile and keeps her sights on Lou.
What are you doing, you silly banana? You silly fish.
Moments like this are extra special. In a few weeks, Riaan will turn 5, a milestone they once feared.
He's still progressing and he's still vibrant and aware, and so we are hopeful that we have much more time than we were originally told.
Inside their home, hope mingles with the rhythms of busy family life, a blend of cheerful chaos.
Put Riaan on the floor. I know, just bring some toys like a ring.
Stacks of toys, stuffed animals, picture books, a lock on the toilet seat to keep 2-year-old Lou out of trouble. But when we looked a little closer, we saw clues into their unique story, a journey that began right after Joe and Richie got married in 2019.
The story of Riaan is in many ways the story of our marriage. Maybe a week after we were married, I was pregnant with Riaan. Riaan was born in December 2019, and during the pregnancy, at first things were going really well. Shortly before he was born, there were concerns that he was measuring small. We didn't know what was going on. The doctors told us, don't worry, some babies measure small, everything else looks good. And when he was born healthy. We certainly didn't think about genetic diseases. We had him tested. We had done all of the pre-screening that they offer, and nothing had come up for us.
And that was the biggest thing, is that he looked extremely healthy, even though he measured small.
Riaan's vision was the initial concern.
He didn't really see, he just saw like the light that was coming in.
An ophthalmologist diagnosed cataracts, and he had 2 surgeries.
We'd never even heard of a baby having cataracts, and that they were in both eyes, and that we needed to operate immediately because he was at serious risk of losing his vision, because his vision hadn't developed.
This was all unfolding in March 2020, just as the world was shutting down.
I've never prayed so hard in my life.
And at this point, you have no idea, though, that that's not really the issue.
Yeah, we didn't realize that that was the least of his problems at that moment, right? Because, so after the surgeries, they went well, thankfully. He had a little bit of a recovery period, but he's a kid, you know, it happens. We did genetic testing. So the doctor said, usually if there's bilateral cataracts in both eyes, that's an indication of genetic disease. So we went to the geneticist and they did a microarray analysis.
So you still didn't get the answer.
So we got a negative result. We remember going to the ophthalmologist and we're like, everything's fine. It could just be like a random thing that happens and he'll develop normally.
For months, his parents were convinced that Riaan's developmental delays were due to his vision loss. They pursued blood tests, they consulted specialists. While some results were slightly off, no one had pieced everything together.
How did the diagnosis come, and when and how?
Yeah, so it was a long journey to a diagnosis, and it was a journey that ended with a result we never saw coming. The neurologist finally pushed us again. He's like, you need to go back to that geneticist. And we went back and they did a whole exome sequencing. And we had never heard of this test before. We were not even worried about it, to be frank. They told us it would take 3 months. So we're like, okay, 3 months, you know, we'll wait. Life went on. Riaan was making progress. The day Riaan turned 15 months, so March 12, 2021, we had a meeting with the geneticist. And we knew something was wrong from the day before because they'd emailed us and they said, we need to have a telehealth with you.
The tone was very different. And we're like, okay, is there anything we need to know? The doctor will talk to you tomorrow.
So you went into that conversation braced.
Terrified.
Yeah.
We were scared, but we weren't that scared
I
either.
mean, we were scared, but not expecting what we were, the news we were getting.
Right into it, he says, we know what's going on now with Riaan and it's not good. I'm so sorry. And we're like, what are you talking about? And he's like, he's got this disease called Cockayne syndrome. He came back positive. And we're like, what? And I had my phone because the telehealth was on, I was on my computer and I was frantically Googling like Cockayne syndrome. And the images that came up when you first Google Cockayne syndrome, especially at that time, the kids did not look anything like Riaan. Like, you know, he was like I mean, and of course they show a lot of images of children with later stages of disease, but like Riaan was, you know, like he was small, but he's a healthy looking boy. You know, he's vibrant, he's making progress. And I didn't I'm like, no, this can't be right.
Was that even in your vocabulary or in the realm of possibility?
He said he'd only heard of one case in his whole career. And then he told us that it was fatal. And we were like, what? And I asked him like, well, what's the life expectancy? And he really paused. He didn't want to answer. And he's like, well, we think that Riaan has a more severe case because of his, the fact that he had cataracts when he was so young, his smaller size, his inability to sit, stand, walk, talk at that point. You know, so based on sort of those more severe physical mobility issues he had, he's like, there's different types. So we think he's type 2, which is the most severe, and the life expectancy for those children is 5 years.
And he didn't even tend to really know much about it either.
I felt like we were sort of like kidnapped and like transported to like a completely different world where although everything looks the same, we weren't the same. We knew everything was different. And like, how do we even live here? I couldn't even look at Riaan at first. I didn't want to be near him. I was so ashamed and I felt so much guilt, like, because it's genetic and we know it's not our fault. Intellectually, we understand it's not our fault. These things happen. But I felt like as a mother, I'd failed him. Like I couldn't protect him. I was supposed to, like when he was born, I said to him, Riaan, I'll do everything in the world to protect you. And I felt like we couldn't.
I'm just thinking the whole time, like, you know, what did we do? How did we go wrong?
How do you guys begin to wrap your hands around this and process this news, and you make a decision to do something?
I remember I started Googling and I started researching the disease, and I was trying to get my hands on scientific papers. I started reading and trying to learn everything I could.
They learned that Cockayne syndrome is a rare and fatal neurodegenerative disease that largely affects children and young adults. It causes a failure in the body's DNA transcription and repair process, resulting in stunted growth. Many children with Cockayne will have developmental delays, in addition to vision and hearing problems.
I started emailing scientists on the papers, and I just sent out these cold emails. I didn't know if anybody would respond, and I was surprised. So many did, and they were willing to meet and set up a Zoom right away, because I was trying to figure out, is there a treatment? Can we fix this thing? You know, what's going on? What's the state of the research? How do we address this, and what can we do as parents?
You start hearing back from scientists, and does that lead anywhere?
I'd set up meetings, so I had a lot of Zooms. Thankfully, Richie was there. My parents were there to take care of Riaan, because I was just sort of preoccupied with nonstop Zooms and trying to learn everything we could about this disease. So, and these scientists, like some of them who are now on our scientific advisory board, they were tremendous. Like, they were sort of able to simplify concepts. I'd met another dad who had done significant research 10 years ago. His daughter is older with CS, she's 30. And he was like, take notes of everything that the scientists tell you. Like, these folks know a lot, and you're not gonna be able to digest it all in a Zoom, and you need to just take vigorous notes.
And be
like,
able to refer
and be
back
able to
to
go
it.
back and learn. And that was the best advice. I realized that there wasn't really much from sort of a therapeutic standpoint. No one was pushing or advancing therapies in sort of an urgent way at that time. But still, we didn't know what to do. Like, we were still sort of like, we never thought that, okay, it's our place to go in and sort of advocate for gene therapies or drug repurposing or any of those other programs, until we shared our story publicly. And then I had parents educate me, and they were like, these are the possibilities. Like, you can push for gene therapy, depending if that's appropriate. There's drug repurposing. So there's gene editing, but that's sort of down the road. It's not clinically relevant at the moment.
A Harvard researcher encouraged Joe to connect with Dr. Terence Flott, an internationally known pioneer in gene therapy research at UMass Chan Medical School. Dr. Flott is the provost and dean at UMass Chan. In 1995, he led the first human trial of adeno-associated virus, or AAV, to deliver corrective genes to targeted sites in the body. 3 decades later, he's still driving advancements in gene therapy research to develop treatments for a range of rare diseases: Tay-Sachs, Canavan, and Cockayne syndrome.
There were 2 really big groundbreaking moments on this journey. That was the first one, where we had a university say, we are interested in pursuing a gene therapy. We're interested in working with you. We are interested in advocating for a treatment.
In October 2021, 7 months after Riaan's diagnosis, UMass Chan entered into an agreement with the Riaan Research Initiative to fund, research, and develop a gene therapy replacement to combat Cockayne syndrome. But that agreement would not have been possible without the second big groundbreaking moment.
And then the second one was when we met this organization called Rare Village Foundation. And they provide sort of a fiscal sponsorship to parents starting out just like us. So that way we could raise money, but under their umbrella, so we could immediately start and give tax exemption to our donors, allowing us to fundraise quickly while we waited to set up our own organization and to set up our own 501c3 status.
Incredible.
We started fundraising, and we organized a Riaan Research Initiative in 3 months.
You have had remarkable fundraising success. How have you managed to do that?
The question of the year, right?
When we were going through the process of everything, and we were like, wow, we're gonna need to raise so much money. And I remember one night I was just looking at Joe. I'm like, how are we gonna do this? Like, this is insane. This is so much money. And she just looked at me and says, we don't have a choice. We have to do this. This is something that we need to do.
And did you know at that time how much you had to raise or what it would go to?
We had like a ballpark estimate of like how much we needed, but thinking like how we're gonna get to that point it seemed almost impossible.
Initially, we had a lot of great success from our own network. So we tapped sort of friends, family, work connections.
In short order, they raised about $40,000 towards their goal of $1 million.
I think Riaan's magnetic personality, his beautiful face. I mean, I really think he's the driver of all of this.
Want to show off all your stuff? Oh, head up, head up, head up. Head up, cutie.
During our visit, Riaan's physical therapist arrives for a home session. The vibrant personality that Joe and Richie talked about was on full display. Riaan was lighting up the room. And while he can't speak with words, he has no hesitation expressing his emotions.
Yes, smiley boy. Let's keep on. Let's keep going. What are we going to look for next?
Riaan's personality and story have certainly impacted the fundraising efforts of the Riaan Research Initiative. The foundation was set up in June 2021. By August, they had raised $40,000 toward their goal of $1 million. And that's when they received an unexpected email from their largest donor yet.
This donor asked us, how much do you need? And we're like, we've raised 40,000.
I said, even like 10,000, we're gonna be like, this is great, you know, and that's all we were really like at first expecting.
They donated $960,000. We were just blown away. And they were like, we know that your lives are really hard right now dealing with the diagnosis. We want to make it a little bit easier for you, and we want to make this a real possibility for you. We couldn't believe it. We didn't know this donor. We don't know this donor. We were running, we were screaming, we were like hugging each other, we were crying, we couldn't believe it. We were telling our families, like, how could this happen? Like, and that's what gave us the confidence to keep going. This is a real chance at a treatment. People step up and more people want to help.
By the end of 2024, the Riaan Research Initiative had raised $3.5 million.
And our biggest, of course, signature program is funding the Cockayne syndrome gene therapy program at UMass Chan Medical School. And so far, you know, we're very much on our way to our first hopeful clinical trial. You know, we fully funded the preclinical work, which was successful. We've established proof of concept. The gene therapy works in the mice. Mice are not people, but there's great sign that it's working very well.
Definitely pointing in the right direction for everything.
UMass signed a contract with Antolin Biosciences, and they're currently manufacturing a clinical grade product of the gene therapy. And in parallel, we're also doing toxicology studies.
They're hoping the FDA will give the green light for a first-in-human clinical trial sometime this year.
And just to clarify that, so your hope is that Riaan will be the first person to get this experimental gene therapy?
Yes. That is our hope, yes. And then hopefully after that, if it is successful in Riaan, that we can provide it to, or UMass can provide it to other children as well that are impacted by this disease.
Do you have to stop and like remind yourself sometimes that you've actually done all this and come this far?
It's kind of surreal.
I feel so blessed and fortunate because this is not a chance that most parents in our situation get, and we recognize that not everyone is able to pursue these types of opportunities, push this type of research, spend time fundraising. It's a lot of work. And there's managing a child with a severe illness from day to day is very difficult. dealing with the grief. I mean, we've adapted over the years, but the grief is ever present.
Yeah.
He's about to turn 5, which is what that first doctor told you. So
Yeah.
how do you think about the future?
Once we got the diagnosis, I'm like, this is the age we never want Riaan to get to. You know, well, I said, just stay 2 years old, stay 3 years old. Don't ever get to that age. And I used to always think, and I used to say, oh, you know, we don't want to get to that cursed age. We don't want to get to 5.
The way this disease works is there's progression, there's a plateau, and then there's a decline. He's still progressing, and he's still vibrant and aware, and so we are hopeful that we have much more time than we were originally told, and we're operating in that way. I don't know where we would be if we didn't have this hope on the horizon.
Happy birthday to you. It's for you, Riaan. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Riaan.
We're still in the middle of this. We don't know where this is going to end up. We just keep pushing it one step at a time.
We'd like to extend our thanks to Riaan's family, to Joe, to Richie, to Riaan and Lou, and to the entire team at the Translational Institute for Molecular Therapeutics at UMass Chan Medical School, who are advancing the research into Cockayne syndrome. For more information about the Riaan Research Initiative or to donate, go to riaanresearch.org. In our next episode, we'll bring you the family of Raiden Pham.
Honestly, like seeing him stuck in his body, you know, he wants to move, he wants to do all this. He tries, you can tell, you can see it in his eyes, but he can't. And that's, as a mom, it's just the hardest thing to see.
Raiden lives with another ultra-rare condition, UBA5. Join us as we share the Pham's journey. Rare Diseases, Real Stories is a production of the Office of Communications at UMass Chan Medical School. It was conceived of and produced by Sarah Willey. Brian Goodchild produced, photographed, and edited the episode. Dan Lambert and Samuela Akab designed our graphics. Joanna Elizio and Ray Gonzalez developed the web page. It's also produced and hosted by me, Jennifer Berryman. If you like what you're hearing, follow and subscribe to Rare Diseases, Real Stories, wherever you get your podcasts. And to read or listen to every episode in this special series, visit umassmed.edu/Rare Diseases, Real Stories. You can also email us anytime at advancingtogether@umassmed.edu.